some bracing news we never expected to report. Black Lives Matter is now more popular than the President of the United States, and not slightly more popular than the President, much more popular. A survey this week by Rasmussen, a right-leaning pollster, found that 62% of likely voters now have a favorable opinion of Black Lives Matter. At the same time, Rasmussen found that Donald Trump's approval rating was 43%. That's almost 20 points lower. The numbers are astounding, but the polls are not the only measure of it. Here's a Black Lives Matter rally from over the weekend in New York. Look at that picture. That is an ocean of people. Ask yourself the last time you saw a candidate for office who was able to draw a crowd like that.
Oh, I love that so much. But I don't know if that was intentional, but I don't know what bracing news is. He's probably bracing for impact. I have no idea. I don't think that was intentional, but it seems like he's panicking. And I love that he saw that video and absolutely hated it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the conservative ideology, as it was from its foundation, Edmund Burke and all that shit, it was basically a way to stamp down popular uprisings. I mean, that's just what it is. So when they see something like these Black Lives Matter rallies, it's horrifying to them. It's absolutely horrifying. Any expression of popular mass democracy is antithetical to the conservative id on some basic fundamental level. And Tucker Carlson, you're right. Tucker Carlson, he's not Sean Hannity. He's not Ducey or these other idiots from Fox News. He's actually very clever. He's very clever at absorbing left-wing critiques of the establishment and kind of warping them around into this right-wing framing. And that always gives his critiques much more weight as a result, right? People are like, huh. Because no one buys right-wing orthodoxy. It's fundamentally unpopular. Tucker Carlson usually can weave it more effectively into something that does look like a sort of critique of the system that looks more substantial. But really, it's these moments where he just kind of absolutely melts down and the whole thing kind of comes apart. It's hilarious.
It really is. And if you I have to be honest, because we've covered Black Lives Matter and police brutality for such a long time. And it felt like we were climbing Mount Everest with people there constantly pushing us down, it just felt like no one agreed with us. And it was devastating to constantly report on these stories, show all of this horrific video and feel like the majority of the country wasn't on board. But if you look at the recent polling, this is exactly what Tucker Carlson was talking about. And in this graph, you can see that Black Lives Matter has far more support than, people who disagree with the movement and don't support them. And so this is what he's panicking about right now. Tucker is shocked that so many people are behind this movement. And since it's Tucker Carlson, he's, of course, going to call Black people scary because that's what he does. Take a look.
The media, in their relentlessly fawning coverage, usually describe Black Lives Matter as an activist group or a protest movement. But that's deception by understatement. Black Lives Matter is not a collection of marchers with signs. It's not a conventional political lobby like Planned Parenthood or the NRA. It's not pressuring Congress to pass some narrow new set of laws. Black Lives Matter is far more ambitious than that. It is working to remake the country and then to control it. It's a political party. As of tonight, Black Lives Matter may be the single most powerful political party in the United States. Nobody says that out loud, but politicians understand it perfectly well. If nothing else, they understand power. They can smell it at great distances. And that's why they're lining up to bow before Black Lives Matter.
Nando, I love how he's no, they're actually not activists. They're not this is a political party. He gets to decide how to label these protesters. I guarantee you that even within this movement, there are disagreements about political candidates and other political issues. It doesn't matter. The fact that he's trying to label this as something that in his mind is scary is just incredible to me. There's nothing scary about this movement other than how powerful it is and how it's forcing politicians who have only listened to their donors to bend to the will of the protesters, which finally the average American has more of a say when it comes to a particular issue than those who have the money and the resources.
He's Tucker Carlson in this case is taking a playbook straight out of the 1960s and the American right wing in the 1960s, when there was like an absolute panic about the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party looked much like, I mean, they were holding guns and like, you know, military hats and stuff, and they were dressed in fatigues. Like, they were like, in a way, like I could see like how you could be much more afraid of them. This Black Lives Matter, like, throughout this, like no one is armed. They're not like, no, there isn't. It's the scary element is absolutely gone from that. But that's the reflex. Is like it's very fascinating how he talks about how their goal is to take over the country and control it. Like it's like some sort of revolutionary guerrilla group, you know, from the Cold War, you know, again, a thing that couldn't be further from the truth, but obviously like it can resonate with certain people who see these things and are like, oh my God, like they're going to take over my, I don't know, like my house or something, you know what I mean? Like, but this is not what's happening at all. Like, I mean, it's very obvious. Like these guys are like holding signs and they're like, you know, in many ways polite. Like this is not what it was in any way, shape, or form back then. It's just, it's hilarious to see him equated to like some sort of violent insurrection movement that's going to take him over.
Well, I mean, look, you mentioned the civil rights movement, and the civil rights movement, just like the movement that we're seeing today, is about power. It's about the power of people to live in a society free of excessive force, police brutality, state-sponsored violence, right? And Tucker Carlson knows that. And he sees this as a zero-sum game in a lot of ways. I think that he sees this as a shift of power to the very people who he has loved not having power historically in this country. In fact, he talks about that in a way in this next clip, because he's very concerned about racists who have lost their jobs because of some of their reaction to Black Lives Matter. Take a look.
Yes, Black lives do matter. That is a statement of fact, and no decent person doubts that it is true, because it is. And it's true precisely because every life matters. We are all human beings, every one of us. We have souls. Skin color is irrelevant to moral value. Until recently, this was considered obvious. Saying it was regarded as a virtue. All lives matter equally. All of us were created by God. In the end, all of us will die. Nothing can change that. Not wealth, not fame, not race. Every life is precisely as valuable as every other life. And by the way, that idea forms the basis of the Christian faith. It's the entire premise behind our founding documents. And yet suddenly, thanks to Black Lives Matter, you can no longer say it out loud. Affirming the fundamental equality of all people is now considered hate speech.
All right, there's a lot of problems with what he said there. Number one, literally no one has gotten fired for saying all lives matter and nothing more. Okay, no one. There was a ridiculous pro-Trump protest in Miami Lakes, Florida over the weekend. Devastatingly embarrassing. And the rhetoric coming from the white Cubans in South Florida is so utterly disgusting and embarrassing. And I'm beyond proud of my husband for coming from that type of hateful, gross community and having enough common sense to understand that that ideology is wrong and toxic. And so just want to give a shout out to my husband, Christian. You are the bomb. Yeah. And for the Miami Lakes Cubans, just understand that Trump and all of Trump's cronies do not see you as white.
No, they hate you.
Yeah. They hate you. They see you as immigrants that have infiltrated this country and need to be kicked out. And it's incredible to me that they moronically protested in support of this disgusting president. But anyway, that was my rant on that. But let me just mention, no, Tucker, no one believes for a second that you believe that all lives matter. How many kids died in border cages? And he loved that. He loved Trump's zero tolerance policy at the border. He's so full of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like I said earlier, Tucker Carlson loves to take sort of traditional left-wing values. Okay, the traditional left in theory is like, humanist and believes that like every single human being, every single life on Earth has worth. Therefore, that's why like imperialism is bad. For example, like you can't just murder people on the other side of the world to serve your like imperial purposes, right? That's just that's a fundamental thing. But he obviously doesn't believe that, right? He's just using that kind of very noble sentiment to twist it around for his own nefarious purposes, right? And that's just like what's so frustrating about him in so many ways. Like he doesn't actually believe that all lives matter. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not like the way that that's being used is just so twisted and not. And it's so far away from the spirit of it. Like, and the fact that he mentions that that's like the foundational principle of this country, like shows like how full of crap he is, right? Like, yeah, it said all men are created equal, but there's slaves, like that doesn't, that, how does that compute, right? So this idea that, and what happens with like these right-wing critiques about like the sort of willful ignorance around racism is that it leads to these kind of weird conclusions, right? Because you cannot deny things like the wealth gap. You cannot deny the statistics that black men are disproportionately killed by police, right? Yes, a lot of people are killed by police in this country, and that's a problem, but it's a disproportionate amount of black people. The racial wealth gap is bigger than it has been in decades. So what conclusion, if there is no racism baked into the system, then what conclusions can you draw from that? Like,
I mean, we've heard
it's like that they're dumber or lazier, like that's how you start to get into trouble
exactly
about
what they say.
You know what I mean? Like it has to explain in some way.
That's why people like Dave Rubin are paid handsomely to have horrible individuals like Stefan Molyneux come on and talk about skull sizes. Right? That's the ideology. It's like, no, we don't want to take ownership of the fact that we live in a deeply racist society with systemic racism baked in. Rather than take responsibility for that, let's just pretend and purposely misinterpret the science to call out various groups of people as inferior, inherently inferior. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
and you got to, yeah.
No, and I think one thing that they latch onto is that because we live in the kind of society that we do, and where everything is kind of seen through the eyes of corporations, essentially, and what ends up happening with a lot of these kind of very genuine anti-racist sentiments is that they get turned into like a giant HR department. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why you're seeing like this whole like anti-racism industry existing that's basically to sell themselves to companies to protect themselves from racist claims, right? Like, claims from employees for racism. So what they do is they have to like legislate all these like little interactions between employees. And that's, people at the end of the day hate that stuff. Like they hate, HR departments. HR departments suck. HR departments work for management. They don't work for you, right? They're not there looking out for your interests. They're looking out for the corporation's best interest. That's why everyone on some fundamental level knows that they're full of shit. And they latch onto that aspect of it. And I think that there's like some sort of genuine critique of that to expound on a much bigger thing, which like the numbers are there. They're obvious and irrefutable. Like the racial wealth gap is something that is just, you can't look at it and come to any other conclusion that it's, if you agree that there is no sort of difference in terms of, some people are dumber than others, then the only conclusion is that the system itself is racist. And that's like where the focus should be on.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.